For Spooky Month, my stream and I tier listed the Overwatch heroes by how well they would do in a zombie apocalypse. However, there was a few assumptions made. Number one, that Omnics could not get infected. We decided to go off the Walking Dead rule, sort of, where if you get bit, no matter what, it cannot be cleansed. However, you can cut it off, and you will be able to survive if you do it fast enough. Bites are the only thing that counts towards killing you, and healing will not under any circumstance heal the bite. So unlike when I compared healing to real life, it might actually not be as useful in this particular tier list. Also, right before we start, in the description is a poll for a later video where you can vote on your favorite hero to play as. I'll remind you at the end of the video, but please vote in that poll so I can do it for a later video. We also made a few assumptions. As an example, we assumed that Junkrat wouldn't get himself killed randomly, and we assumed that they would be in many scenarios, like in a civilization that actually survived, and in a wasteland where they're surrounded completely. There is also a few characters that don't work well if you don't make some assumptions. For example, Diva, because she can remech and get infinite mechs, you have to kind of assume that her base of operations is still up. However, when we get to Ana, which actually I may as well talk about now, you may notice that there's two different icons for them. This is because if you go off of just the face value of how the character works, they actually wouldn't do very well, and I'll explain why now. So for Ana, we originally had her in Bad Chance. This is because a quick Google search told us that poison would not affect zombies, and since Ana kind of kills people with poison, we assumed that her syringe would not break the brain, and therefore she would not be able to even kill zombies. I mean, she could kill zombies by beating them, but that would not be very efficient compared to the other heroes. Her sleep dart would be able to stun a zombie for like, what, 5 seconds? But literally every single one of her abilities would not be very useful on her own. This is of course assuming that poison does not affect zombies. If poison does affect zombies, or Ana is able to unmodify her gun to be a sniper again, I think we said she would have a great chance. Ana's placement might get moved down to good chance because we actually didn't write down the alternative form, so very sorry that I forgot. But the reason we put her in great chance is because she could just sit up on her roof and shoot down on people. Actually, I'm going to move her down to good chance because I do know what goes on later in the tier list, and mobility is kind of valued in this, and Ana has no movement abilities. Even though she does have a sleep dart, it would only affect one character. I guess in this scenario, we are assuming that her grenade will kill zombies, so that's pretty useful. And her sniper will only be able to kill 1 zombie per second roughly, which is not as good as the other characters. To be fair though, Ana as a character would do great in the zombie apocalypse, but I did prioritize abilities over personality, and I'm also comparing these heroes to the other Overwatch heroes. So once you see who is in the top 2 tiers, you might understand why Ana is so low. Now since I started this video a little bit wonky, I do want to go over the tiers real quickly. On stream we had would survive for sure, where they would survive with no question. Great chance, where they would most likely survive very well. Good chance, where they would probably survive. Okay chance, they would probably survive, but not as much. Bad chance means that it's like a 50-50, and terrible chance means that they're under 50% gonna live. However, we also had a tier called dependent, where it depends on how their ability works, and that is why I did Ana first, because Ana was in that tier, but we'll get to that at the end. And starting now, instead of going in alphabetical order, I'm going to be going from worst to best. So next up in our list would be Brigitte. For this tier list, we did give her the benefit of the doubt in that her mace will one-shot zombies. However, she has to put an effort to swing that mace all the time. Brigitte at face value would actually do pretty okay, being able to kill zombies pretty efficiently by swinging it, swing again, swing again. However, our reasoning on why she is so low is because she would get tired pretty easily. She is wearing a ton of armor and she swings that flail so much. She also has no vertical mobility. She does have her shield bash, and some people have said that she would do shield bash tech to get on roofs. I mean, whatever. I guess if somehow you can pull that off in real life, sure, she could go up a little bit. But assuming that you can't do that, the shield bash is pretty much useless besides dodging a few zombies, I guess, as we considered the shield bash not strong enough to kill a zombie. And if you shield bashed a zombie, then it would just grab you, and melees go through shields, so shields are pretty useless. Her healing, her inspire is not very useful because it would heal scratches, not bites. So Brig would probably get easily overwhelmed, and we also assumed that she could not just spin in a circle and kill a bunch of zombies, even though maybe she could, as that would probably break her weapon or not be strong enough to do so. And this is a very good chance to say that if you disagree with this tier list, or you think we should have used different criterias for this video, please comment down below and tell me. Remember, this is a fun tier list for Spooky Month, especially because I'll be doing Project Zomboid and Overwatch on Twitch, so follow me there if you like either of those games. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you like Overwatch because you're watching an Overwatch video. Moving on though, this one really made me sad is Reinhardt. Reinhardt has the same problems as Brig, arguably even worse, where he's going to get tired. However, I feel like he would be way more efficient at killing zombies, simply because his hammer feels like it would be able to kill multiple zombies better than Brig's flail, and his armor seems stronger than Brig's, so if a zombie does go up to him and try and bite him, it will probably protect him a little bit better. On top of that, his movement is probably better since he is able to charge through zombies or just charge away from them. He will get more distance with his movement ability. However, there's always this big worry that if you charge into a zombie, they may accidentally bite you in a soft spot, so you don't want to be doing that, but you want to know what you will be doing. You will be fire striking zombies. Reinhardt's Fire Strike will be much more useful than Whip Shot, since we considered a zombie lighting on fire as something that would kill it. I think as long as Reinhardt doesn't need to get on a roof quickly to get away from zombies, he will be pretty okay. However, there's always a chance a zombie will sneak up on him. He'll probably get very tired very easily, and overall, I think he has an okay chance, but not a good one. After that is one that's actually pretty surprising, and that is Zarya. Zarya is a character where her abilities just doesn't help her during a zombie apocalypse. Her bubbles do not last long enough to be meaningful in a horde of zombies. She does have some range, so she isn't risking melee range with a zombie. However, she doesn't have armor like Reinhardt or Brig. She doesn't have much mobility like Reinhardt and Brig. She can technically secondary fire herself, but that's not going to be super useful, especially because she'll hurt herself. Although she'll be hurting her shield, so I guess it doesn't matter that much. And I think worst of all, she wouldn't really be charging her bubbles without risking melee range, so her gun would take a long time to kill zombies. Her Graviton Surge would be pretty useful at killing multiple zombies, but overall, Zarya is just a non-mobile, slow-killing zombie machine. Also, just to go back a quick second, we didn't really consider Reinhardt's ultimate because it might create crawlers, and crawlers are not fun to deal with. Now that we're done with the okay chance, we're going to move on to the good chance. And starting us off with that tier is Roadhog. Roadhog is another very immobile character. However, his gun seems a little more efficient at killing zombies than Zarya. His ultimate actually would be really useful at killing a ton of zombies. His hook probably wouldn't be used. Take a breather would be pretty useless as he cannot heal a bite. And the trap is a little controversial on how it works. However, my viewers said that as long as they step in it enough, they would fall over and then electrocute their head, so I'd accept that. Roadhog is only in good chance rather than okay chance, simply because I feel like he could kill zombies fast enough without losing as much energy as Ryan or Brig, and wouldn't have to risk himself as much as Zarya. It is actually really ironic that the guy who says he's ready for an apocalypse would actually not do very well in an apocalypse. So let's move on to our other Australian tank, and that is Junker Queen. As a reminder, we did not consider Junkertown as a resource that Junker Queen would have. As a matter of fact, they would probably fall pretty quickly, so they would probably die off anyways. Junker Queen has a shotgun, like Roadhog. Junker Queen has a knife, so pretty useful at close range, but Roadhog has his hook to kill things at close range, so kind of equal still. Queen has Carnage, that's pretty useful. Shout would be very good to run away from zombies, which is something that Roadhog does not have. And on top of that, Junker Queen's ultimate is a little weird on how it would work. However, if nothing else, it could be a movement ability. We also know that in lore, Junker Queen can manipulate metal with her magnets. So in a theoretical universe, she could use her magnets to fly in the air, which would bump her up dramatically. However, since this isn't in-game, I decided not to account it, but keep in mind that Junker Queen could be higher. And as a matter of fact, I probably should have made a second icon for her, just like how I did with Ana that assumes that she can manipulate metal. However, since you're watching the video and not skipping through it, like some people, you'll know my reasoning on why I put her here. And just keep in mind, this is probably the lowest I would ever put Junker Queen. I think she has a great chance in the zombie apocalypse. However, her abilities that are in-game would not get her very far. Next up, we got one that is very sad, and that is Lucio. Lucio has a lot of abilities that do not help him. First off, his gun probably wouldn't one-shot a zombie consistently. We actually made the rule that if we weren't sure if a gun would one-shot or not, we said that big zombies would take multiple hits and small zombies would take one. So Lucio's gun in our version of the zombie apocalypse would not one-shot every zombie. His boop we said would one-shot zombies just because it's so strong. His healing aura is obviously pretty useless. However, his speed boost and amp it up would be pretty good. Also, his beat drop in our version would be pretty useless as you'll just get bit anyways. The one elephant in the room saving him is his wall ride. Obviously, he can wall ride up walls. However, it does take a hot minute to get upwards. I mean, if you're a pro Lucio player, maybe not. And we also assumed that he'd be running around so much that he'd actually get pretty tired. So kind of like Ryan and Brig, we actually moved him down because we were worried he would get tired. However, this is our first character with high mobility, or at least okay mobility. mobility, so he is still pretty high up. And I don't know if you've noticed, but we're onto the B tier. Lucio is B tier, like we're just now talking about him at the beginning of the video. However, he's already B tier in an apocalypse. I mean, you could probably go up to great tier if you really value movement that much. However, I think he kills zombies so slowly that he would not be able to storm a building like a grocery store to get food. So even though he could sit on a roof all day, I mean, so could any other hero without mobility, assuming they can get up there in the first place, which I mean, Junker Queen, Roadhog, Reinhardt, Brig, I think they could storm a building. I just don't think they can get away from a horde. Lucio, I think, could get away from a horde if he had enough time to get on a roof. However, I don't think he could storm a building to get food, so he's not doing good. Next up is Iari with kind of the same problem. Iari had a lot less mobility, so she messes up her left shift. She's going to get surrounded and die. Obviously, her healing pylon and secondary fire aren't going to do anything. Her gun is pretty efficient. It will kill probably like 1 zombie per second. And her ultimate will actually allow her to fly temporarily. However, I did not consider that for long term. There are many heroes that I said would fly infinitely. I think Iari would run out of power pretty quickly. And actually, now that I'm considering it, I'm thinking about putting her in great chance simply because of that reason. However, I'm just gonna leave her. I'm gonna trust what I did. I always change my tier list. I'm gonna just leave her this one time. Also, we considered Outburst to not light the zombies on fire just because she doesn't light people in game. However, obviously, her ultimate would shoot a ball out, would hit a bunch of zombies and then blow them all up. That would be really cool and honestly really fun. However, since she would be very limited on her power, she would only be in good chance. However, if she can harness all of her power to fly infinitely all the time, she would be probably in S tier or A tier or something. Next up is one that is probably shocking he even made it this far, and that is Junkrat. Also, I'm going to move Ana down a little bit because she doesn't have mobility. For our purposes, Junkrat has total mayhem in real life where mines do not affect him. So this means he can mine jump, he can bomb himself to survive a zombie attack. Riptire would actually be a pretty good tool for reconnaissance, where you can pop your ultimate, go inside a building, check around for zombies, and if there is one, just blow them up. But yeah, Junkrat would be a zombie killing machine. If he gets bit, he would just chop off another limb. I don't know how he would survive it this time, but I mean, he could. For the purposes of his tier list, we just assumed that his luck would counteract his stupidity. So Junkrat is in good chance. However, this is like a hesitant good chance because I feel like he would be one of the first characters to get himself killed. He just would be. I think every other character on this list would be a lot more careful. However, since we're not really considering personality for this tier list, Junkrat with his abilities and being able to blow himself up would be in good chance. Now we're moving on to the A tier with great chance. As a reminder before we start this, we are assuming that they do not have the resources of like their home and stuff, unless if their abilities require it, like Diva's mech for example. Next up is one that's pretty sad, and that is Soldier 76. Soldier 76 can run around and shoot zombies. That's pretty good. His Helix rocket could get him up on a roof. That's pretty useful. He could also just use it to blow up zombies. His auto visor would be great to kill a bunch of zombies really quickly with infinite ammo, I'm pretty sure. Oh, also just for this tier list, we assumed infinite ammo, just so you guys know. However, his healing pad wouldn't be very useful besides Helix jumping and then healing himself. Soldier is pretty much just a zombie killing machine. He would maybe get surrounded pretty easily if there's no vertical places he could jump up to, but besides that, he would have a great chance at surviving. This is actually the same thing with Cassidy. If you do not know, in the Halloween game mode, if you high noon as Cassidy, you will ignore your 6-bullet lousy clip and just obliterate a million zombies in one go. So Cassidy, just like Soldier, would be a zombie killing machine. He does have his role, which isn't going to be super useful, and we assume that flashbang would blind zombies even though they'd probably still walk towards you, and that would last for a couple of seconds. However, high noon was so overvalued in my chat because he could just kill any zombie he sees, of course when he has high noon available, that they decided to put him in A tier. I personally think Soldier would do a better job. You know what? Screw it. I'll just move it. I think Soldier's gonna do better with his consistency, I guess, even though Cassidy could kill a million zombies in like one go. Oh, also another thing, Cassidy does have a mechanical arm, so Cassidy, if he puts his hand out, could take some bites. So overall, I think he has a great chance, even if he is the least mobile character so far. Well, actually, I guess Ana's less mobile. You know, I actually Roadhog is too. What am I saying? Why do I say stuff without thinking? Anyways, next up is Torbjorn. This one made people mad because they would say, oh, Torbjorn would just build a giant death robot. Keep in mind, his abilities do not assume that he has this stuff on hand. He will not have his workshop in our theoretical apocalypse. Now, like I said, it is a little controversial that Diva does. That's why I mentioned Diva. That's why I've been talking about Diva this entire time, to get it in your head. Like I said, if you guys want us to change the rules next time we do this, I mean, I'm probably not going to do this again until like next October. Feel free to comment down below what you would change. Torbjorn is actually one of those that maybe I should have made a second icon and put his like like workshop next to it, and then tier listed Torbjorn without his workshop and Torbjorn with his workshop. However, assuming that he's not able to make it to his workshop, his gun is pretty solid. It can kill zombies pretty okayly. His turret would be very useful at killing zombies. It is a little slow, but it is an aimbot that can kill zombies and protect him. He does have some armor, but I mean, he's short. They're just gonna bite his head. His overload would be pretty useful at running away, and his molten core would be amazing at killing zombies. It would burn them up instantly. Torbjorn, I think, would struggle with vertical mobility as he just has none, and he would be okay at storming a building. He would just be too defensive, I think. So if there was a horde of zombies around him, he would be able to kill a ton of them, and he probably would never get snuck up on since he does have his turret. However, he is not very amazing outside of that, unless of course he builds a giant death robot, which in that case, I mean, S tier, sure. Anyways, moving on to the next one is Widowmaker. Right now, we're getting into a line of characters where I didn't know what order to put them in, so take the rankings with a grain of salt, but they are in the same tier, so just remember that they're in the same tier. I do rate them very similarly. Widowmaker has a grapple to get away from zombies. Her gun is obviously pretty good at killing zombies. Her Venom Mine probably wouldn't be very good. If poison was allowed, then it'd be okay, but even if poison wasn't allowed, it wouldn't really change your rankings. However, what makes Widow so special is she is the first character I think that could storm a building. Hear me out. If you were able to see wall hacks on every zombie in a building, you could just shoot them through windows or lead them out or just shoot them. And then when your infosight runs out, you go to a building, you wait, you get it back when it recharges, and you can safely take over a building without ever having to worry about getting snuck up on, besides, I guess, if you mess up. So that is why I put Widow in great chance. Next up is Sojourn. Sojourn, I would be okay with being lower than Widow, but as I said, these rankings, you know, you could just switch them around as long as they're within the same tier. Sojourn, like Widow, would probably kill zombies at about the same rate. Her rail shots would go through multiple zombies. We assume that her disruptor shot would work the same as Roadhog's Pigpen, where if a zombie walked into it long enough, they would die. However, the one thing that Sojourn has over someone like Soldier is that she has better horizontal and vertical mobility with her slide. However, now that I'm looking at it, I kind of want to move her down just a little bit. Actually, I'll even put her under Soldier. Sojourn really is just a side grade 2 soldier in this scenario, and even though her ability would get her farther and higher, Soldier does, like I said, just have more consistent vertical and horizontal, I guess. I mean, you could helix jump every 6 seconds while slide is like 10 seconds, I think. Regardless, it doesn't really matter too much because, like I said, this ordering is very hard to do, so they are ranked very, very similarly, if not the same. After that, we got Baptiste, and like I said, I actually am valuing the infosight so much that I'm gonna keep Widow higher than him. Baptiste has a gun. It's pretty good at killing stuff. He can heal people. That's not super useful in our scenario, but it's something. Immortality field would probably not help you because you'll just get bit, and then when the immortality field's gone, I mean, what are you gonna do? However, what placed him so high is his exo boots. He can get on a building whenever he wants. He can jump off whenever he wants because I'm assuming that his exo boots will stop the fall damage. So moral of the story is Baptiste is going to be very easily able to move throughout a city because he'll be able to constantly jump on and jump off of roofs. After that, we got actually one that is pretty hard to rank, and that is Maga. Maga, hear me out, would probably be the Overwatch hero who could kill the most amount of zombies in one go. Now, there is stuff like Bastion, obviously, but Maga, oh Maga, I do not see a world where he gets surrounded in an open field by zombies. He would kill them so quickly that I do not think they could get to him. Now, this, of course, is assuming he doesn't run out of ammo. This is assuming there isn't like 1 billion of them next to him, which is why he isn't in Would Survive for sure, because I think he could still be overrun. On top of that, though, he can light the zombies on fire. And we said that if a zombie catches on fire, it's probably gonna die. Maga does that just with his gun, just normally. We also are assuming that any pellet from a gun will kill in one shot. Maga has 300 bullets before he has to reload. Obviously, his shout wouldn't really help him heal because if he takes damage, it's probably a bite and he's gonna die. And on top of that, his dash has the weakness of Reinhardt's charge, where if he runs into a zombie, it might accidentally bite him. And on top of that, Kate's fight is kind of a death sentence. Regardless, Maga isn't getting overrun easily at all. He does have no vertical mobility, and raiding a building would be kind of hard for him, but also he can just kill them all. Next up is Mei, with probably one of the cheapest options. I mean, I'll put her here. Mei has a few things going for her. First off, Ice Wall. In a theoretical universe, she could just lift herself upwards, and zombies cannot get her until they break down the ice wall, which in that case, she'll just place another one. So Mei is in this theoretical scenario where if she plays it right, she will never be on the ground level with a zombie. Now this of course is assuming infinite ammo. If Mei had infinite freeze, she would be able just to ice wall everything and never have a zombie get close to her as she's just walling them off. Zombies could of course break it down, which is why she's not higher up. On top of that, her cryo freeze would probably screw her over. I mean, if you cryo freeze, there's a bunch of zombies, they're just gonna surround you, then when you pop out, you just die. However, Mei's secondary fire is pretty good at killing zombies. Primary fire would obviously freeze their head, then they'd fall over and crack their head open. And Snowball would be actually a pretty cute tool. I am assuming, for this purpose, since Snowball is its own character, it could fly around and tell Mei where the zombies are. There is one exception here. If Mei uses her ultimate, then Snowball obviously cannot use the ultimate again for like 5 minutes or something like that. So Mei does have her ultimate, however, she can't just use it infinitely. Snowball can't just freeze zombies for Mei. It's only a one-time use for every like 5 minutes, like I said. So Mei is pretty powerful. It's just a not very strong powerful. There's just better characters that would survive easier. Speaking of, we actually have Kiriko. Kiriko's knife would kill zombies pretty efficiently. Her healing of Fuda isn't very useful. Suzu, in our case, will not cleanse bites. We decided to make that exception. I know Suzu is supposed to cleanse everything, but bites are also supposed to never get cleansed. So I decided to overrule the cleansing rule and make it so bites will stay even if you cleanse it. As a reminder, the only instance where you can cleanse a bite is if you cut off your arm or wherever you got bit at. So with that being said, Suzu will actually not be very useful. However, Kiriko's teleport will be pretty good if she's able to teleport to people near her. Now, some people have argued that she can just teleport in her cinematic. We're gonna assume that she cannot do that. And if you disagree with that, maybe she can teleport to zombies, but then again, she teleports to teammates only, so, you know. However, that is a pretty sick get out of jail free card. And on top of that, her Kitsune Rush would be pretty useful at killing zombies. She can also wall climb to get on vertical slopes, just like Baptiste can jump on them, which is why Kiriko is so high, as she is able to get up on high places just like Baptiste, and also get away with just a teleport. Not really too much to say. Kiriko would be a little bit risky as she does need someone there, but even without someone, she is pretty competent and would be around where Baptiste is right now. After that, we actually have Hanzo. Hanzo is very, very similar to Widowmaker. They both are able to kill zombies pretty quickly. Storm Arrow would be like the burst fire. Hanzo actually has the benefit of having silent arrows though. Shooting an arrow is super duper quiet, unlike all the guns we've been talking about so far. I also forgot to mention that with Kiriko, because throwing a knife is pretty silent. With that being said, Hanzo would get tired pretty easily also. You know what? I'm just gonna move Widowmaker up instead. Dude, I don't know where to put these guys. I'm so sorry. Just remember, they're in the same tiers. Just remember that. However, the reason that Hanzo is so high in the first place is because his sonar is sick. You could clear a building by sonaring walls and finding where the zombies are without getting overwhelmed at any time. And if there is a zombie, you just climb a wall. And on top of that, my favorite thing that we came up with is that his Hanzo Dragon would kill zombies. Now, I know in the cinematic, Genji deflects it and it doesn't kill him. However, I'm going to assume that the zombies are decomposing and that their bodies are not as strong as human bodies. Also, in-game, it kills people, so I think that's fair to also include. So you could sonar a building, seal the zombies, and then aim your dragon to kill them all. Hanzo would be a very good utility in an apocalypse. After that, we actually got a technicality here, and that is Lifeweaver. Lifeweaver has a pedal platform that we can assume will stand there forever. This means that you can literally, at any point, place down your platform, sit up there, and just kill zombies under you forever. People also mentioned that he has hard light technology, meaning that he can make anything he wants. However, we kind of have to assume that he does not have the technology on him, as he is currently on the run, meaning that he only has what is on him. You may notice that in the tier ranking, we have two Symmetras. That is because Symmetra is not outcasted from Vishkar, so we can assume that Symmetra is going to have one placement, or when she only has her abilities that she has on her, while another Symmetra will have basically any hard light she wants. However, Lifeweaver does not have that luxury. His Thorn Volley would be pretty good at killing zombies. We did assume that it would take maybe like 1 or 2 to kill a zombie, depending on how thick their head is. His Healing Flowers wouldn't do very well. His Life Grip would be helpful at saving someone, and his Pedal Platform would be absolutely amazing at saving him if he gets surrounded. His Tree also wouldn't be very useful, but it could block doorways off, I guess. So why is Lifeweaver an A tier and not S tier? The only thing that I think Lifeweaver does not have going for him is not being able to storm buildings very well. That is actually going to be a problem that I have with the next 3 heroes. being Juno, Mercy, and Pharah. Lifeweaver, Juno, Mercy, and Pharah theoretically could be so high in the air that they can never be hit. However, Lifeweaver's gun would be too weak to storm a building to get food. Juno's gun is definitely too weak, as in her cinematic, she took 2 bursts to break a rock. I mean, to be fair, it's a rock. But I'm very skeptical that that gun would actually be able to burst a zombie's head open in one shot. This is the same with Mercy, but not as much. I feel like Mercy's gun would be a little more powerful. And you might be surprised that Pharah is here. Pharah is literally the rocket queen, being able to blow everything up. However, I am super worried that all the noise that she makes will attract even more zombies that will overwhelm her indoors. She does have her barrage to maybe help her out. However, again, zombies would just walk in through the door and she might barrage all the zombies indoors, and then more zombies would just walk in and she just couldn't get out. I guess you could just blow up a wall though. I didn't really consider that. You see, Pharah would be like an A+ tier right now. If we had another tier, Pharah would be an A+ by herself. Just keep that in mind. However, Lifeweaver, Juno, Mercy, and Pharah all theoretically could just fly high enough, or I guess pedal platform high enough, where no matter where they are, even if they're in a field with no buildings, they would not get surrounded. However, they just aren't strong enough to go through a building, even though Pharah maybe could compared to the other 3. This is why Pharah is at the top of great tier. Now that we have gone through the A tier, it is now time for the S tier. These are heroes that I'm not too worried about surviving. First up is Sigma himself. Sigma can manipulate gravity and theoretically could fly infinitely if his brain is strong enough. He's able to blow up zombies' heads with his spears. A rock to the face would kill them. His grasp wouldn't be very useful, as I don't know if it would suck up zombies or not, and his shield would be pretty useless. So why is Sigma in S tier and not in A tier with the other flyers? If I'm gonna be honest with you, it's very hard to talk about Sigma without talking about his abilities to manipulate gravity. So theoretically, he could just use his gravity mind telekinesis to say, hey, I want my mac and cheese in the grocery store. And then he'll just use his telekinesis powers to grab mac and cheese from the store. So theoretically, he wouldn't even have to put himself in harm's way. Now, this is breaking the rule a little bit about only using in-game abilities. However, Sigma is just so hard to talk about without mentioning that. Next up, I'm gonna put them both down at the same time, and that is Ramatra and Bastion. Omnics in our version of this are immune to bites. However, they can still get torn apart. This is very important for these two in particular because they do not have vertical mobility. Bastion is absolutely able to shred zombies, while Ramatra is able to do somewhat the same thing. His nanobots would probably kill zombies, but it'd be really slow. And obviously his pummel would be pretty useful. I should also say that I neglected to mention Bastion's grenade for Bastion jumping. So I guess Bastion does have some vertical mobility. However, these two are Omnics. They can't get bit, so they would be able to survive much better than some others. However, you may notice they're still in S tier. Mog is the same way. He can kill zombies, and if he gets surrounded, he's gonna die. So why are they so much higher than Mog, even though they are Omnics? We had a discussion on stream on whether zombies would ignore Omnics straight up if they play dead, and I think they would. So for that reason, that is why they are in S tier. However, zombies are weird, and they might just attack them randomly, and then they will have to fight back, meaning that they will alert more zombies to their location. However, theoretically, they could just play dead or power down. So I think these two would be in the S tier. Maybe not as high as some other characters just because they do not have as much vertical mobility. Which, speaking of vertical mobility, I want to talk about Tracer's vertical mobility. In game, obviously, she cannot blink upwards, but it's kind of hard to talk about Tracer without mentioning the cinematics where she can blink in any direction. So Tracer in our version will be able to blink in any direction, and Tracer is the first character to be able to undo a bite. In my opinion, if you get bit and you go back in time 3 seconds, that bite will be undone. Tracer has guns, a ton of movement, so she will never even get grabbed. She also has a bomb. I mean, bombs are pretty cool. Moving on, next we got Genji. Genji arguably might be worse than Tracer, but again, they're both in the S tier, so don't think about it too much. Genji, first off, has armor. Genji is not getting bit unless they tear him down. Genji needs to get surrounded to die, just like the Omnics. Genji also has a goddamn sword. We have decided that he is allowed to use his sword, but he will get tired just like Reinhardt and Brig. So obviously he does not want to use his sword all the time. His shurikens will one-shot. Their goddamn shurikens. They're gonna slice your brain open. Deflect wouldn't be very useful, but I mean, whatever. His swift strike would be useful. He could just cut down zombies in a swift strike. And that is why Genji's in S tier. He's just a powerhouse of an Omnic, basically. He's not an Omnic, obviously. I know he's not an Omnic. But for this purpose, he may as well be because he's immune to zombie bites. After that, we got one that survived a long time, and that is Ashe. I mean, you guys know why Ash is here. It's Bob. Bob is basically like Bastion, but with someone. Now, there is the downside of that you have to feed 2 people. Now, Omnix, I don't know if they need food. I don't know if they need power. For this purpose, we didn't even think about that. So that is the one downside of having 2 people. But Ash has a coach gun to get away from zombies and stand on a roof all day. And she can just let Bob do all the dirty work for her, which is actually kind of... that is kind of cute. It's kind of like how it works in the actual Overwatch lore. Dynamite is fire, so it will kill zombies. I actually forgot to mention this. Coach gun is strong enough to kill zombies, so it's like a pocket shotgun, which you guys know I like pocket shotgun Ash. Ash's gun would also be very useful at killing zombies. So having 2 people and one of them being immune to zombie bites is why Ash is in S tier. After Ash, we have Orisa. Orisa to me would be about the same as Bob on chance of survivability. However, she would be a little bit stronger. In a theoretical world, she could shoot with her right hand with her gun and then use her javelin to push zombies away with her left. Now, obviously, you don't want to get that close to a zombie since it could tear you apart, but I really do think that Orisa can kill zombies fast enough to not get overwhelmed, kind of like Maga. The only reason I even put Orisa above Ash is simply because Orisa is an Omnic while Ash is not. Now, I know that Ash has Bob, but Bob is not who we're talking about here, whether he would survive or not. So since Ash is still vulnerable to the infection, I just decided to put Orisa above her. However, I think they have about the same amount of chance of living. After that, we actually have Doomfist. Doomfist is one that could go a lot of places depending on how you look at it. He obviously has his hand shotgun to kill zombies, but of course he has the Doomfist gauntlet. We unfortunately do not know the limitations of the Doomfist gauntlet. However, it has famously said that the Doomfist gauntlet can take down buildings. My one issue with Doomfist in particular is that he has no armor. But again, just having the gauntlet is insane for your survivability. If you're ever getting surrounded by zombies, you just fly away with it. If there is a zombie, you just punch him in the face. Granted, you do not want one of their teeth accidentally getting into you, which is why he's not at the top of the list, obviously. And I would be okay with moving Doomfist a little bit down just because he is wearing no armor. However, my chat really wanted him high up since he could just fly around with the Doomfist gauntlet. So I put him here. After this, I could either put D.Va or Hammond. I'm going to put Hammond just because that's what we did on stream. First off, I just want to talk about Hammond himself as a hamster without his mech. Theoretically, since he is so small, he could just hide in a vent and grab food as a little hamster boy. So that is a big bonus for his survivability. However, as we know, he has a mech. While inside his mech, Hammond is basically invulnerable until they tear it apart. Hammond's mech is going to be absolutely amazing for surviving, which is why he's so high up. And he can kill zombies relatively quickly because he does have 80 bullets, I'm pretty sure. That's not even considering that he could just grapple through zombies. However, I would be okay with putting him even higher than the next person I'm going to talk about, and that is D.Va. However, the only reason that D.Va outbeat Hammond is very simple. In the D.Va cinematic, she flies forever, meaning that she will never be touched, meaning that her mech will never get destroyed. Now, this does assume that D.Va's gonna have infinite power, but again, the reason that I assume that is simply because her ultimate in Baby D.Va form is to call down another mech, meaning that she has basically infinite mechs. Now, is this a reasonable consideration? I am unsure. D.Va, just like some of the other ones, could have had 2 separate pictures. One where D.Va only has 1 mech, one where she doesn't. But as it stands right now, D.Va would be able to fly infinitely above zombies and shoot down on them. After that, we got Sombra. The one problem with her invisibility is the fact she can still get detected, which, by the way, that's the reason she's up here so high. Because what you can do as Sombra is you can place your translocator, like the old translocator, go inside a building while invisible, grab your funny mac and cheese, and get out of there. Sombra wouldn't exactly be killing many zombies probably, but she would be able to survive them just because they can't see her. Next up, we got one that's a little surprising, and that is Venture. Now, the reason that Venture is so high up is because it's kind of assumed that they can be underground forever as long as they can breathe. So all you gotta do is have a little air pocket to breathe and you can be underground forever. And the difference between Venture and Sombra is very simple. Venture cannot be touched, while Sombra could theoretically be touched. Again, this is the S tier. They are at the top of the tier list. I do not know which one would be more powerful, but this is what I think would be more powerful, since I would rather not be touched than not be seen. And finally, before we move on to the dependent tier, we got Echo. Echo is very simple on why they are this high up. They can fly, and they're immune to the zombie bites. So you don't need food, so you can just shut down in your little pod and just outlive the apocalypse. Which is the case with all Omnics, which is why they are all in S tier. However, if for whatever reason your roof started getting overrun, Echo for sure could fly away. So now we are on to the dependent tier. It depends on which version of the character we are talking about. I probably should have done this for more characters, but these are the ones that I caught on stream. First up is Reaper. Reaper is probably the only hero in the dependent tier that could have gone without having two separations. But the reason I did end up separating them is because Reaper in-game is much different than Reaper in the cinematics. In the cinematics, he can kind of just fly around wherever, while in-game he obviously cannot. And you might be surprised about this pick, but Reaper in-game I think would be all the way in Survive for sure, while Reaper with his abilities in the cinematics would be right there. There is one very simple reasoning for this, and this is because I believe that since Reaper can basically break apart his molecules, I don't really know what he does. This means that technically he can shed his infected body. So this means that if he gets bit in his hand, he can just go into Wraith form and say no to those particles, I guess. I feel like base Reaper would be able to do this, and cinematic Reaper would be able to do this. Now, just for the fun of it, because we do have two pictures for Reaper, I'm going to consider in-game Reaper not being able to clean the infection. So I'll move him down between Hanzo and Mei, simply because I value the utility of Hanzo and Widow's wall hacks more than just being able to go through Wraith form and teleport. Keep in mind, I'm talking about right now the in-game version that cannot cleanse bites, while the Reaper that could cleanse the bite up here, because theoretically he could still die of his injuries and maybe run out of molecules. I don't really know how to word that. So I just think Echo has an easier time than Reaper. And I may as well get Mora out of the way because Mora has kind of the same problem. Mora has the problem of how does her abilities work against the zombies? Mora's Biotic Grasp is supposed to be taking their life force, however, zombies are dead, so how does that work? So if Mora is unable to take their life force, I would put her in bad chance simply because she would not be able to kill zombies except for fade away, which theoretically, since she has similar powers to Reaper, she may be able to even cleanse herself from bites, but she could still get overwhelmed while on cooldown. While Mora, who can cleanse herself, and Mora, who can kill zombies, well, I mean, it's gonna have to go up here, right? I'd probably put her slightly down just because I feel like she would kill zombies a little too slowly. However, she can cleanse bites and just stay away from them. I mean, actually, I know cleansing bites is very powerful, so I'd probably move her down to like right here, probably at the bottom of S tier, just simply because she would kill zombies way too slowly than anyone else in this S tier. I should say that the dependent ones I'm making up on the spot right now, so feel free to comment any logic errors I make. After that, we got Symmetra in-game and Symmetra with Infinite Hardlight. Symmetra in-game would probably have around great chance just because she would be able to place turrets. Those turrets would kill the zombies. Her beam would obviously kill zombies. Her balls that she shoots would too. And she can teleport on the high ground. The only issue is that her wall would do nothing for her. Actually, I'll probably put her like right around Baptiste. However, Symmetra with Infinite Hardlight could theoretically do whatever she wanted, including making like a Hardlight mecha suit. So I'll put her right under Reaper because theoretically she could never get bit. And now we got probably one of the saddest ones, and that's Winston. Winston's gun is basically like Roadhog's Pigpen, where it's gonna take a long time for him to blast the zombies' heads open. I'm also worried he might make a lot of crawlers. So first off, I think regular Winston would go all the way down here just because his gun would kill zombies way too slowly. He doesn't want to be close to the zombies or else he'll get bit, which by the way, we did make the rule that animals cannot turn into zombies, but if they get bit, they will die by the zombies. That's how we decided to rule that. So Winston, even though he has some armor, would probably get bitten after a while because he has to be super close to the zombies and he takes a while to kill them, at least with his Tesla gun. Obviously, he could grab them and smash their head in, but then he's in melee range at that point. Now, if Winston can upgrade his gun to kill zombies instantly, that's a little different. I do think Winston would need too much food to survive, meaning that he would have to raid buildings pretty consistently, and I don't think he can really do that super well. However, if we're in this theoretical world where his Tesla gun is super powered, I'll probably put him around up here just because he might have the same amount of chance as Maga to clear a building. I don't really know. This one's hard. He could theoretically just go to a jungle and sit in the trees all day. And finally, we got Zenyatta. Zenyatta being an Omnic obviously makes him immune to the bites. He floats, so theoretically he could fly, which means that he is on the same tier as Echo. However, Zenyatta is Floaty Robo Jesus, and I'm sure if he meditated enough, he would become the hero that everybody needs, and he would create the cure. Thank you guys for watching. This video was just for fun for Halloween, and as a reminder, in the description is a little poll where you guys can vote on your favorite hero. Keep in mind this is your favorite hero to play as, and so rank them from 1 to 41 on how much you enjoy playing as them. Anyways, like and subscribe, and I'll see you all later.